Yes, welcome everyone here to the Smash Sports Show right here on Smash FM here on a Sunday here in Melbourne. Of course, let's go to normally I would say go to our friends in the US, but of course this particular player is still in Australia at the moment because she's currently based up in Queensland, but of course she will be heading back to the US, of course, early next year. Of course, she plays in the sport of tennis, that is. And of course, she's from the Dartmouth women's tennis team, and of course she joins us from Queensland at the moment. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me on.
No worries. Well, obviously I'll get you to introduce yourself and tell us, how's it been like in 2020?
So I'm Ameliija. I'm from Moira in central Queensland. It's kind of 700 k's north of Brisbane, so sort of a long way from anywhere. And so 2020 has been interesting year. You know, I was meant to be heading off to college in September, but with COVID, it all got delayed, and with the borders being shut, I couldn't get to Sydney to get my visa. So I had to do 3 months of college online in Moira. So I was dealing with the 15-hour time difference, which wasn't much fun. And so that was very interesting experience, being like doing classes in the middle of the night and still trying to like do my tennis training. So it was a very tiring 3 months, and I'm still like getting over it like 3 weeks after I finished term. So yeah.
Now, you mentioned about that. Obviously, you mentioned that because of the Queensland New South Wales border closure throughout most of the pandemic, obviously you haven't had a chance to, I guess, leave the country. So the question I want to ask you is, I guess, how did you sort of try to adapt to doing things online, even though the time difference, as you mentioned, wasn't really great, 15 to 16 hours. How did you sort of try to adapt to their time more than our time here?
Yeah, it was really difficult, and I like, before I picked my classes at the start of the term, I had to like weigh up how much I wanted to change my sleeping schedule, because I'm still living at home with my family. So it was like I can't really sleep through the day because there's people around. So I ended up deciding on just picking classes that were as early as possible in the morning in the US, so that I was finishing still quite late in the night, but I was finishing by 2:30 in the morning, rather than some classes which finished at like 5 a.m. So it was a lot of like, I weighed up a lot of different possibilities of like whether I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and do classes, or if I just stay up late. And so that was a whole like debacle in itself. And then of course you get to the whole trying to train and play tennis while you're doing that. So it was very, at the beginning, it was really hard to get used to that new routine, especially not being able to wake up early because I'm going to sleep so late, which isn't really what I wanted to be doing. But you know, you just have to do what you have to do sometimes, I guess.
Now, you mentioned that obviously classes finish at 2:30 in the morning, and obviously they just had changed daylight saving over there to go back an hour. So did that sort of help you or not?
So at the start of the term, I was finishing classes at 1:30 in the morning, and then when daylight savings kicked in, it went to 2:30 in the morning. And for some reason, that extra hour in the night was like just the longest hour ever. And it was like, it made me so tired. It was probably, I think daylight savings kicked in about week 6 of term, so I still had 4 weeks of like those really late nights, and it didn't come at a great time, but yeah, I got through it at least. But yeah.
Now, talking about tennis in particular, I guess what have you been doing to sort of keep yourself, I guess, motivated to, I guess, keep going and obviously get that fitness going heading when you head back to the US, and obviously I'm sure you'll be ready to go then.
Yeah, it's been I've a lot of the time I've focused on sort of strength and conditioning outside of things, just not having access to some of the hitting that I would like to have. So I've been just focusing on staying on top of all my gym workouts, because of course Dartmouth provides me with all of those, and they send me running programs and they always check in. So that's been really good, having that support on top of my usual training environment that I've been in for the last, 10 years or so at home. So it's just been sort of focusing on that conditioning aspect, just so that I'm physically ready when I get there, and I can just train and play tennis and work on that when I have more people to hit with and all that.
Now, the question I ask you is, obviously with COVID and most sporting competitions have cancelled or postponed or even shortened their season. With college for yourself, I guess, have you played any tennis at all this year?
I played a couple of tournaments right at the beginning of the year before the whole COVID lockdown and all that happened. So I played a couple of tournaments then, and then I played 2 tournaments in September just before college term started, and one of them was during when I was like studying. So, and they didn't go. It was really difficult trying to, because by that stage it had been like 7 months since I'd played a tournament, and like it was just really difficult not having that match fitness and sort of, and because living where I live, it's 7-hour drive to a tournament, so we were traveling a long way, and then it was sort of like really difficult to play a match just with not having the practice, and so that was difficult. So it's sort of, we just decided that while term was on, while I was trying to study, we'd just stay home and just focus on training, and I'm just focusing on now just getting through to January when I go over there, and I'll be able to play some more matches.
Now, of course, you are the only Australian on that team, but you do have a New Zealander on that team as well. I guess, have you two sort of been keeping contact, considering the time difference is not as bad as most of your teammates over the other side of the world?
Yeah, Nina, she's from New Zealand, and she did last term when the lockdown and all that kicked in. She went home to New Zealand and she was doing classes, and I think it's like an 18-hour time difference there. So hers was like even worse than mine, and she was just like giving me a few tips about scheduling, and she was like, just try and get it late at night and just deal with it. I was like, okay. And so it's interesting because like she has like some little stories and stuff about when she first got there and how she came from New Zealand. It was so different. So yeah, it's been good to not be the only international on the team.
How important is to have a New Zealander on the team? I know that obviously we like to claim a lot of New Zealanders as our own. So we could almost claim this one's our own as well. But I guess, have you had a chance to meet her prior to the COVID at all?
No, I haven't met anyone in person on the team. So it's a bit weird that because we have like weekly meetings and we're all in contact. So I know everyone, but I've never met anyone, like no one at Dartmouth. I haven't met them. So it's sort of this weird thing. Like when I get there and I actually meet people, it's going to be interesting.
You must tell us, whenabouts are you heading to the US, especially to Dartmouth, and obviously starting your actual college journey?
I'll probably be heading over there in mid-January. It was meant to be right at the beginning, but they've delayed our return to campus just because they like anticipate a spike in COVID cases after Christmas when everyone's traveling. So they've said they don't want everyone moving in. I think it was meant to be on the 5th. So they've delayed it by 11 days to the 16th. So it's bought me a few more days in Australia to like pack and get ready. But yeah, so it'll probably be mid-January when I get there.
Are you cutting down those days considering you were meant to be over there already?
Yeah, it's been a long 3 months watching everyone over there already, and I'm like, oh, I hope I can be there. And like I wasn't sure whether I could make it for winter term or not because I was waiting on the borders to open from New South Wales. So thankfully they opened in time for my visa interview.
Marcel, tell us a bit about your coaches there at Dartmouth.
So we've got Bob and DJ, and they're really nice. Like I haven't met either of them, but I talk to Bob most weeks, and like they're always checking in about this and that, and how's tennis going, how's school going. And like I send him like videos of myself playing and like various things that we're working on, and they'll send me back feedback about this or that. And so that's been really good to sort of have that virtual coaching experience, I guess.
Is there a particular competition or tournament that you're going to be going into once you've arrived in the US in mid-Jan?
There's no competition in the Ivy League conference for next week, but they haven't announced anything for spring, so I guess fingers crossed that there's something going on. I'm not sure though.
We're about to go into the summer tennis down here in Australia next month. Obviously, you'll be heading over there probably halfway through that. Are you doing any competitions at all between now and Jan when you leave?
Probably not. I'll probably just be focusing on just making sure I've got everything in order before I go there, and just staying on top of things physically, I guess. And just because when I get there, I also have like a 2-week quarantine and all of that sort of stuff to get through. So I'm kind of just trying to make sure I have everything to survive the winter, and just focusing on being around family and friends, I guess, before I leave sort of indefinitely.
Now, you mentioned about the winter. Obviously, you're in beautiful Queensland right now in the heat at the moment. How's that going to be for you to adjust from steaming hot 30-degree days to very cold about 15 to 5-degree days?
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. It's like it'll be snowing there for many months when I get there, so it'll just be totally different experience, like waking up to snow and it just being, because one of my friends, I was talking to them about the winter, and they're like, that whole winter term, the only time that you'll be fully warm will be when you're in the shower with with hot water on. And I was like, okay, that's a bit scary. But yeah, so I've like bought so much winter stuff. It's probably not going to be enough. I have no idea how to like exist in snow, but yeah, I'm a bit scared about that.
So I'm assuming you're sort of almost prepared for it?
Yeah, I've when we went to Sydney for my visa interview, we did a lot of shopping there, because I think a lot of the stuff we bought you probably couldn't find anywhere in Queensland. So it was good that we went down to Sydney and like got a bunch of stuff. And yeah, but I'm looking forward to the winter because I can learn to like ski and snowboard or whatever else they do.
That's fair enough. Now, for you, I have to ask, when did you start playing tennis and why did you choose it?
I think I sort of, I always wanted, I think I got like a tennis racket for Christmas one year, and I was like, when I was really little, and I always wanted to go down to the tennis courts, because where we were living at the time, there was like tennis courts right down the road, and my dad played tennis growing up, so he like took me down and we'd just like have a little bit of fun, hit. And sort of when I was about, I guess like 8 or 9, I started playing some tournaments, and it was just really fun and I enjoyed playing. So I kind of decided I wanted to put some work into it and see where it went. So from then I just sort of went up the ranks in terms of tournaments and all that.
Also, do you have a highlight throughout your tennis journey so far?
It was a while ago, but it was in 2015, and I made the 12 and under Queensland team, and that was like the first state team that I'd played in. So that was exciting in itself. And we went to Hobart. It was in October, I think, but it was freezing cold it was like 10 days, but it was freezing cold. Like we played one day in trackies and a hoodie and then a tracksuit jacket on top of that. But we as a team, because it was mainly focused around the team event, so Queensland actually won that team event. And I just remember that was just like probably the highlight, even though I was 12 at the time and it was 12 and under nationals, but it was just so fun, and it was like this entirely new experience playing for Queensland. So it was just like, yeah, and I made a lot of friends out of that I'm still really good friends with.
Why did you end up choosing Dartmouth as your college of choice?
I think it just, the fact that the level of the education and also the level of the tennis was kind of just ideal for me, and it appealed to me as well because of like the smaller, it's more of they call it more of a rural environment. To me, it seems like there's a lot of people around because it's in like a town of 10,000 people, and my town's got 1,700. So to me, it's not that rural, but for them it is. So it's kind of like this in between, not too city, not too, yeah. So it's a nice community. It's a bit of a smaller college than a lot of others. So that sort of feels a bit more manageable, not as scary for me. And so, yeah, and I really liked what I saw when I've never visited, but it all looked quite nice, and it's been really good so far. Like, all the professors have been so accommodating with me being in different time zones. So it's been a really nice experience the whole way through.
What does the sport of tennis mean to you now?
I guess it means a lot of different things. Like, there's the training aspect. Like, it's sort of, the focus is, to get fitter, to get better, and to be able to compete, at the best of your ability. But then there's also, I've made a lot of really great friends out of playing tennis. So, like, regardless of how things go on the tennis court, you still have all those connections and those coaches, friends, like fellow players that you always know. So it means a lot. Like, there's so many different things that I've benefited from it, and just growing as a person, like dealing with, losing matches and, playing people that might not be so nice. So, you learn a bit from working through that. So, yeah.
Do you have any future ambitions in the sport of tennis past college?
Yeah, I'd like to see where it goes, and just, work really hard through college and see where I am, and try go pro one day, depending how things go. Yeah, just the important thing with college is that I can play tennis at a high level and still have a degree at the end of it. So keeps my options really open.
Do you have a particular tennis player that you look up to?
I really like Ash Barty, just because she's a Queenslander. She's really down to earth, and yeah, she's just a really nice human being. And I've seen her in person quite a few times, and she's always this really nice. Like, from looking at her, you wouldn't think she's, number one in the world, because she's just, a normal person. She says hello to everyone. So yeah, just for me, the fact that she's so successful but still this just down to earth person.
You almost pretty much just answered my next question anyway. You mentioned that you had a chance to, see and meet her in person. Did she give you any advice from the world number one?
I haven't really asked her for advice, but I guess just from like observing her, it's just, you just take away not to like take things too seriously, because she's always having a laugh on court and having fun. So I guess you just sort of, just from watching them, you can learn a lot just from the way they act and the way they go about their business.
Now, what will be your advice to our listeners and viewers, especially in regional Queensland, that should get involved in tennis?
I guess for me, I didn't have much access to other people to hit with. Like, I've grown up just hitting with my dad, but we made it work. Like, we had to drive a lot of hours, but I guess the moral of the story is, like, it doesn't really matter where you live, as long as you're willing to put in the work to sort of, you need your parents to be willing to drive you places. But, just being willing to put in the work, do things independently. Like, if you have to go train on your own, practice serves on your own because you don't have anyone else to hit with, then that's just what needs to be done. So, there's nothing can really stop you from playing tennis, even if you don't have someone to hit with.
Now, we'll finish on with a couple of light-hearted questions about your teammates at Dartmouth, even though you actually haven't met them in person. Obviously, I'm assuming you've had a chance to do Zoom meetings with them in the past couple of months. So the question I want to ask you is there any comedians in your tennis team?
I'm not really sure. There's sort of, everyone has a little joke every now and then that they sort of come up with, and it's like, oh, didn't see that one coming. But yeah, it's interesting trying to do things over Zoom when you have like 12 people in a Zoom room. It's really like, because it's so glitchy, and so you never know what someone actually said. So you sort of like have
to. What you hear from your teammates? Any good singers and dancers in the team, or anyone that just into TikTok?
I don't think so. I don't think anyone's particularly good at it. We did make a team TikTok where we we had to hit the ball. We had to get someone to throw the ball to us, and then we hit the ball like out of the screen, and then the next person like caught it wherever they were. So it went from like New Zealand to Australia, all the way over to the US and like across the country. So that was pretty cool.
Now, have you convinced any of your teammates over there, minus the New Zealander, to come down to Australia with you?
Not yet. I'm still working on it.
Now, when you're over there, I'm sure you're going to be staying with maybe a couple of your teammates over there. Have you decided on who you want to stay with, or has that already been arranged for you?
Well, for the first year, we have to live, well, I mean, 3 months is already gone, but for the first 2 terms when I'm there, I have to live on campus. So it's like you get given a random roommate and everything. So that sort of all worked out. But I don't have a roommate for winter term because of the COVID restrictions. They can't have people together. So it's sort of, yeah, but it'll be interesting because not the whole team isn't on campus every term because of the Dartmouth's policy. So there's about 6 of us, I think, on campus next term. And then the next in spring term, there's only 2 or 3 of us, I think. So it's like, it's sort of like a real mix of who's on campus at what term.
Now, I have to ask, has any of your teammates, other than the New Zealander, try to put the Australian accent on, and how's that travelling?
No one's tried. They just like to laugh at me.
So the question I need to ask you, is there any particular things they laugh at when you speak?
It's nothing really in particular. Like, I'll just say a normal word, and then they just have a laugh about how I said it, and I don't think anything of it. But apparently, like, it's just random words that I say, and they're like, "Oh, that's a weird word," or "That's a weird way to say it." But yeah.
Now, do you ever believe that we have kangaroos as pets?
Well, I told a few people that I rode a kangaroo to school one day, and they they were a bit doubtful, but they also like didn't say I was wrong. So
I was going to say, you probably could get away with that being in regional Queensland.
yeah, I don't think they thought anything of it.
Of course, I've got to finish off this last 2, which is, do you have a pre-competition, superstition, or ritual?
I wouldn't say it's like a superstition, but I'm very particular about what clothes I wear to tournaments and stuff. Like, I always like to have my hat like matching my skirt or matching my socks. It's like, and like everyone else, I'll ask them if they match their hat to their socks, and they definitely don't. But when I'm on the tennis court, I always have to like make sure everything matches, just because I don't know, it makes me feel better.
And I've got to finish up with this one last one, which is, have you been trying to practice your American accent, and how's that going?
Yeah, because I do tutoring with like little kids during the week as like my job, and one of my little girls that I tutor, she always like greets me in like this fake American accent, and we have like little so that's like our weekly thing. But yeah, it's not.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for getting up your time to join us. It's awesome having you on the show. Obviously, from all of us here at Smash FM, and especially for everyone across the country, I want to wish you all the best for your journey over to the US, especially to Dartmouth. And I'm sure you're going to enjoy your college experience over there, and can't wait to see how you go in 2021.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No worries. If you want to follow, of course, the Dartmouth women's tennis team, of course, throughout the 2021 year, of course, we'll put all the details up on their schedules, and especially on, and of course, on their socials as well, on how you can go about supporting them throughout the 2021 season. There's more on the Smash Sports Show right after this. Don't go away here on the Sunday edition.